Hey guys, it's Brandon on the Internet Chess Club, and I thought I would do a little bit of live kibitzing here. So, GM VDoc here is Grandmaster Boris Grachev, I think, who's a very, very high-rated player, like almost 2,700 FIDE, and one of the best blitz players on the Internet Chess Club. And he's playing some 3-minute chess versus... I'm not sure who this is, but some British Grandmaster. So, I just thought I'd do a little bit of kibitzing here. So, what kind of opening do we get here? Some kind of Sicilian. Some kind of closed Sicilian with C3, D3, E4, and now white expanding with E5. Black playing the fianchetto. So, knight D7, knight G4. Knight D7 looks normal, putting pressure on the D pawn. Okay, knight D4 also. So now, yeah, D4 to hold on to the E5 pawn. I expect maybe C takes, and then black can maybe play for pressure on the D4 point, queen B6, like advanced French defense kind of thing. Queen B6. Okay, he goes with A5, expanding on the queen side. Both of these fianchetto bishops, the light squared bishop for white and the dark square bishop for black, seem a little bit like they're biting on this center, which is closed. So white is trying to get his bad bishop out by playing bishop A6. I like that. That's nice. This is sort of a French defense setup where the bishop would be blocked in by these pawns, so he got it onto a diagonal where it's not blocked in. Usually in this French defense kind of setup, if you can find something active for your light square bishop to do as black, you're in pretty good shape. And so now landing this fork, yeah, so he just grabbed the rook. Now, okay, so it's actually 2 pieces for a rook. I forgot this knight was hanging. So he's got to figure out some way to rescue this knight, or else it's 2 pieces for a rook. But I don't see that happening. Oh, maybe he's going to try B5. So if queen B2 to try to pick up the knight, then B5. And now, okay, so B5 would be the idea, chasing this knight, or if queen takes knight, and then freeing the C file so the knight could come back to C2, protected by the rook, but now the queen is taken, now the knight is trying to take that square away. So now the queen comes in to reinforce. And, okay, so attacking the knight, now he counterattacks the bishop. Maybe just bishop retreats, bishop H3, bishop F3. I'm not sure which of these squares is better. This bishop is sort of biting on this pawn formation, regardless of what square it goes to. Maybe even bishop E2 would be better. Okay, bishop F3. Now, okay, B4. And now he manages to rescue the knight because the queen and the rook are protecting. Okay, so now the knight comes in, attacking the bishop and cutting off the defense. But okay, he manages to get out. I'm not sure if knight takes bishop was possible there. But okay, so just up a clear exchange for black at the moment, Grandmaster Boris Grachev, and offering a queen trade. So when you're up material, it's nice to trade pieces. He's got a significant edge on the clock too, 1:40. So doubling on the C file, but it's going to be tough to remove this knight. He's going to have to maybe even give up the bishop in order to get this knight out of this C file. So this knight is doing a nice job of just keeping black's pieces from going anywhere on the C file. Oh. Okay, so trying to get the dark square bishops off, and white prevents that. But his king side is getting a little bit airy here, so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Yeah, he may think about bishop to F8 here just to try to take that knight. Okay, so that's, like I said, he's going to try to take this knight and get his rooks going on the C file. Isn't this winning a pawn? No. But it'll be getting close. In the meantime, white is doing his best to open up lines against black's king with 41 seconds on the clock. He's got to try to drum up some counterplay somewhere, or else black will probably just break through on the C file. So he's given up he sacked 2 pawns to try to get some lines against the king. Opening this dark square bishop maybe, trying to open this bishop. If F takes, if E takes, then F takes. So just, okay, Grachev is just saying, okay, we'll open even more lines here. I have really no idea what's going on anymore, but okay, bishop coming off. Now this pawn is probably going to be grabbed. But maybe Black's king is a little airy here at the same time. Now getting his exchange back, Oh, okay. So now queen takes queen. But now black is just up a piece and a ton of pawns. So yeah, white just resigns. Black is up 3 pawns and a bishop. So those tactics didn't work out very well. I didn't follow them closely because it was all going pretty fast. So this was a win for Boris Grachev. Let's just take a look here. Queen attacking here, taking the pawn. Now bishop attacking the queen. So looks like 2 rooks are on pretty, but then of course this knight is hanging. And if he takes the bishop here, this bishop is hanging. And now he trades queens and then takes off. So he had won an exchange and then 2 pieces for a rook. Also, the exchange from earlier and the 2 pieces for a rook exchange here means that in the end, black was just left with a piece up plus these extra pawns because white sacrificed these extra pawns to try to get some play. Well, I'm following him, but he doesn't seem to be playing another game at the moment. So let's just take a look at some other players who might be playing. Let's hop on with Conrad Holt here, who's playing 3-minute blitz game versus Yaacov Norowitz. So Conrad Holt is an international master, but just made his GM norm, so he's a very strong blitz player, and so is Yaacov Norowitz, but he will be a grandmaster within the next month or so. Yaacov Norowitz is also an extremely strong blitz player, FIDE about 2400, and so pretty close to international master. I think he just needs some more norms or something. So what's going on in this game? It's a bishop and a knight and 2 pawns for each side, so some kind of technical endgame here. Black has this dangerous looking pass pawn which can get on to d2, and oh, okay. Well, I guess we're back with Boris Grachev here. Sorry for that. I didn't know if he was going to play again, but I followed him, so it automatically brings whatever game here. So, okay, so he's playing white, and his opponent is rated 2246, an underdog to the 2664 of Boris Grachev. And we have some kind of strange b5 in a queen's pawn opening, kind of Catalan setup almost, with an early b5 from white. I'm not sure if that was a mouse slip and he meant to play b6, or if he actually meant to play b5. But white is taking the chance to strike at the b pawn right away with a4. And now c4. So en passant capture is possible, and now he'll probably retake with the knight. No, I thought he would retake with the knight and develop, but he didn't. He strengthened his center. So now you might see moves like getting the bishop to g5 or f4, followed by knight d2 and e3 to try to get a strong pawn center. This bishop is unprotected, so black has to be careful of tactics with the knight moving and exposing an attack on the bishop. Okay, so black continues with development. And I'm expecting some move with the bishop. Okay, he decides to get the knight out before. The bishop is a little bit blocked in, but maybe he'd rather get the bishop onto the a3 to f8 diagonal, or even to b2. It looks a little bit strange to put it on b2, blocked by these pawns, but you can always push those pawns or exchange them later and try to open the center, and have this nice bishop pointing at the king side on a long diagonal. So rook to the open file with tempo on the bishop, and black just protects. This is a 5-minute game now that Grachev is playing. So putting some pressure on the c5 pawn, and the bishop did go to this a3, f8 diagonal. Maybe looking to trade if this pawn ever moves, like if it ever plays c takes d4 or c5, then maybe trade these bishops off is the idea and play e3, getting a strong center. Okay, knight coming into c4. Still, this bishop would be under-defended if there were tactics with this knight moving away. The bishop and the rook coordinating on b7. So yeah, like I predicted, these bishops are coming off. And now takes. And, the pawn structure is symmetrical, and maybe some piece exchanges are being encouraged here. And, okay, this position looks pretty good for black to me. This knight is a little offside. I'm not sure what it's doing there. He's going to have to reroute it via, b6, b4 to d5 or something, because it's really not doing much on a6. But other than that, and some more pieces coming off now, this position looks fairly equal to me. Black maybe slightly better, just because of the control of the b-file. And now he brings the knight into b4. Maybe he's trying to get into d5. Oh, that's a nice move. The queen is now pinning the knight to this rook, which is undefended. So the knight can't go anywhere until the rook is defended. So maybe queen back. No, he's not interested. He's just trying to chase this knight off of the e5 square. I can understand that. That's a nice post for the knight. You don't want to leave the knight sitting there for very long. So maybe a move like rook b7, just defending the rook to get out of the pin, or queen back to the 8th rank. Oh, okay. He just moves the knight back, which is protecting the rook and thus exposing an attack on the queen. So now probably you'll see something like rook b1, just to oppose the rook on the open b-file. And still, this game looks pretty even for such a large rating gap, and considering that the black player here has 200, 400 points lower. I think he's playing a pretty good game here. I'm not sure what the computer thinks, but we can actually turn it on and find out really quick. Okay, so yeah, the rook came to the b-file, and yeah, the computer agrees with me. It's pretty even, just maybe even a slight advantage for black. So, good job so far. The one question is going to be the time, of course, because Grachev has now 3 minutes and 41 seconds left to under 2 for empathy. Let's just do a quick check to see if empathy has a name here. No name listed for empathy. So, he's got a big decision to make here. Let white control the c-file, or exchange more pieces and get the queen onto the c-file. So, another move you'll probably see somewhat. I was going to say you'll see e4 from white, gaining space and chasing this knight off of this post. But actually, these knights are now doing a nice job keeping the queen out of the b-file, and that's such. So, I seem to have a message here. Oh, it's Chess Explained. So, okay, so he's just saying hey. So, many of you guys know Chess Explained from his channel, and that's such. So, oh, he's still going. I said he's kibitzing Grachev, and he asked, is he drunk? I don't know. I don't know if he has a reputation for being drunk or not. Oh, this was Norowitz, excuse me. So sorry for that. Let's get back to this game. So now we've come into a queen and endgame with 4-5 to 5. So a very equal endgame here with 5 pawns each and the queen. This pawn on a6 could be dangerous for black. It's very exposed, and black has 3 pawn islands to 2 pawn islands for white. So I think white has managed to improve his position slightly. But the real issue for the underdog here is his time, which is just way in favor of Boris Grachev. So this pawn now falling on f7. Can he take this pawn on f7, trade queens, and win the king and pawn endgame? Maybe not, because the king will grab on a6. This pawn will fall if queen takes queen. So maybe he needs to hang on to the queens with something like queen c4 check, defending the pawn. Try to hold on to this pawn and give his king time to sneak in on the dark squares. Okay, well, I guess he thought the king and pawn game was winning in any case, and apparently black thought so as well, because he just resigned. So we'll see what's going on here. Wow, what happened here? We've gone into a different game, but I can't quite tell what it is. Oh, it's Chess 960. So he has a much lower rated opponent. I don't really want to follow some Chess 960 games. Let's see who else is playing. Vidok, right. Well, okay, let's check out Conrad Holt again. So he's back playing Yaacov Norowitz, so I guess they're in a match. So maybe we could just hop on and follow this match. Sorry for the disorganized nature of this video, but there's some strong players, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it anyway. So we have a knight endgame here where black Darnock, Conrad Holt is up some pawns. I'm not sure if this is technically winning or not, but okay, just giving up a pawn there. So 1 pawn up in the knight endgame. White's king position is a little bit better. It's hard to say if this is a win for black, but you can certainly try. So looking to create a pass pawn with these 2 pawns over here. And wow. Oh, the fork. That's a nice move. If knight takes knight, fork with check here, and the king and pawn endgame is winning. So they're going into another game, and we have a queen's gambit, a Trojan variation, and this is what most of the people are playing these days against this bishop e7 move, is the exchange and then playing to f4. I think the idea is that White's has a slight edge in this position, and he will maybe try to play for e4. And now we see him lashing out with g4 early, and trying to chase this bishop. Maybe h4, h5 would have been an idea, but h5 comes in for black. I think we'll be seeing White castle queenside and trying to put some pressure on black's king, which would presumably go to the king side, but it's not. Hasn't castled there yet. So these guys are playing a little quick. This is a 2-minute game, a 3-minute game, excuse me. So I'll try to keep up the pace here. This pawn on b2 is still on offer here. I mean, for a bunch of moves, you can play queen takes b2. I'm not sure if the queen was getting trapped there. I don't think so, but queen a5, somewhat pinning this knight. I think the position would be okay for black if queens came off. Maybe there's a lot of weaknesses in White's structure. Okay, so putting pressure on this weak e6 pawn is Conrad, and yeah, finally we see queenside castling here, and maybe he'll try to make some profit on the f file and attacking the king, which is still in the center, and it's going to be hard for the king to castle kingside. Yeah, he just goes queenside because it's going to be really tough to even move this bishop. This pawn on g6 is really blocking this bishop in. This bishop is basically dead at the moment, just staring at this pawn and unable to go to either h7 or f7 because of the pawn on g6. So White is kind of playing down a piece at the moment. He really should try to put pressure on this g6 pawn, but it's pretty well defended. So Black's striking out now with c5. And now c4, just gaining some space, and offering this queen trade I think is a smart idea because of, again, this piece not really doing anything. White can try to maybe break now with d5. No, d5 would just allow e takes d5 and free this bishop. So I'm not sure we'll be seeing d5 unless he comes up with a better reason to free the bishop. Okay, so protecting this pawn again. The knight finding a nice square on d5 at least. Where it can't be chased because of this pawn being gone, and there's no pawn on the c file. So this is a hole in black's position. And of course, when you get holes in your opponent's position, you want to stick knights there. Usually, knights are best placed on the central holes. So. Okay, so black really extended this pawn here down to h3, and now white's just attacking it and winning this pawn. So I don't really know what that h pawn foray was about. He just kind of, and now blundered a rook? What happened? Oh no, they traded rooks. So, this h-pawn foray was kind of strange. It just, he pushed it too far into white's camp and it was too easily attacked and then lost. So, the pawn situation is 5 to 6. So, white is up a pawn and almost playing up a piece, like I said again, because of this bishop. So now he's just pushing his pawns here, try to create a pass pawn possibly. But okay. Oh, now he's allowing this knight to be exchanged because there would be no way for black to stop this pawn from queening after bishop takes and then pawn takes. This would just be a queen here, so that wouldn't happen. And wow, sacrificing a knight for 3 connected pass pawns, 2 connected pass pawns. I guess he feels that the pawns would be winning here if this knight is taken. So if it takes, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes. These 2 pawns, I guess he feels, would roll down the board. And now just winning a piece? No, not quite. But he needs to stop this pawn from queening. So gaining another pawn here is Conrad Holt. So now just 6-4, 2 pawns up in this endgame. It looks pretty grim for Norowitz here. Getting a check, so picking this pawn up. Okay, so a blunder here by Darnock. So now he's only down 1 pawn, and he managed to get rid of his bad bishop, or exchanged the piece. So I'm not sure if Holt played this game great. And really, actually, the important thing that I'm just noticing now is that Holt has 10 seconds on his clock to a minute for Norowitz. So even if this position is winning, which it probably is, just up 2 pawns, 2 connected pass pawns, this is going to be very difficult to win in 8 seconds. But let's see if he tries. Now he's pushing his g-pawn, and the knight has to come back to try to stop the g-pawn, getting his own pawn majority rolling. 5 seconds on the clock for Holt. So he's gone into pre-move mode here, trying to chase the knight away, possibly, or just push his 3-pass pawns here. This looks technically winning, but oh my gosh, a knight sacrifice. Can the knight get back in time to stop this pawn? He spent so much time calculating to see if this pawn could be stopped, and maybe it can't. I don't think there's any way for this knight to get back to stop the pawn. So Norowitz actually may have won this game on the board here. Let's see if the computer agrees. Yeah, that was just a nice move from Norowitz, just sacking the knight so that pawn becomes a queen. Okay, so they're going again. Conrad Holt playing black, and we see a Slav defense. And an exchange Slav, so kind of a dull opening, but let's see what we get here. A quick knight e5. Now taking, bishop takes, just trying to trade pieces here. Okay, so lots of piece exchanges coming off. So 2 sets of minor pieces have come off, and I would say this makes the game more or less even. Only 1 file on the board, the C file, so we've got to get on board there with the rooks, and now the other rook coming to the C file. So king coming over from Darnock, from Conrad Holt, just to try to protect the rooks here. Queen's coming off, so now a double pawn on the B file for Norowitz. I'm not sure if this gives any particular advantage, but maybe you can pick on these weaknesses with a move like B5, blockading this pawn. I would be trying to play B5 as soon as possible if I was white to try to remove this weakness. Yeah, so B5 now coming in, blockading this pawn, and now these 2 pawns maybe can be sort of weak, but it seems hard to make any progress here because both sets of rooks are ready to come off on the C file now, and then how do you get in to attack these pieces? So, okay. Holt decides to hang on to 1 piece, 1 set of rooks. Maybe white is slightly better here. Oh, now he decides it's okay to trade rooks. Oh, that's a nice move. Black just getting the rook into C4 now, C5 now, so that if okay, well, I was going to say if ever the capture here happened, he would recapture and get a pass pawn. So slight edge to equal, I would say, slight edge for white because this bishop is a little bit better than this bishop, but and now he's finding this nice C5 square for the knight. So okay, maybe he can reroute this bishop on to F5 to try to get some play here. But okay, what's going on the queen side? The king has to move, and now this A pawn is falling. So still even on pawns here, but it's hard for me to tell what's going on. A little bit more space in the center for black. The bishop isn't such a bad piece anymore. The central pawns are moving, and maybe it can find, well, he's back on light square, so the bishop is still a little bit blocked, but now maybe he can find some life on this diagonal here. I don't know, it's hard to say what's really going on in this endgame. Okay, he decided to Zwischenzug check before retaking the bishop. So king takes or pawn takes? Pawn takes, now the bishop. And now this pawn should be hanging. Unless there's a fork. Whoops. Fell for the fork there. Right as I said it, he fell for it. So Norowitz manages to be up a piece in this endgame, a piece for a pawn, so this should be winning with good technique. But he still has to use his technique. Now using the king to blockade, now another pawn falling. This game should be pretty easily winning. Yeah, so Holt just resigning this game. So that was a nice sneaky fork, knight d4. So here we go again. We've got Queen's Gambit again. Let's see if we get Bishop e7 or something else from Norowitz. He played Bishop e7 last time, and now we're going back into this exchange with Bishop f4. So the Carlsbad pawn structure, which is usually marked by White playing either for f3 and then e4, playing in the center, or pushing the A and B pawns against these pawns on the center, a7, b7, c6, d5. The minority attack. You attack with the minority of pawns versus the majority here. So let's see which plan he goes for here. It looks like a minority attack plan. So let's see, maybe trying to get this knight into c5? Taking this knight, okay, and then grabbing a pawn here, attacking this pawn. So some nice tactics for Holt. So now up 2 pawns, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 5. Yeah, 2 pawns up for Holt. Now the king's castle. And this looks very nice for White, obviously. Yeah, very great. A great square for this knight on c5. It can't really, if it ever gets, it can't be chased, and if it ever gets taken, then it'll just be a connected pass pawn for White. So that knight isn't going anywhere anytime soon, unless it's exchanged here. So offering queen trades when you're up material, it's good to offer exchanges and try to just get a winning endgame. A nice blockade of the position here being established. Maybe this rook is in a little bit of danger. It doesn't have that many squares. It has 1 available square on a4 in the future, but okay, we get some exchanges on e4. More pieces coming off. That can't be bad for Holt. Putting the rook opposite the queen and on the open file. And oh, are there other tactics here? Yeah, that was not a great square for the queen, considering that the knight moving took the pawn, exposing an attack on the queen. Now 3 pawns up, 2 pass pawns, although they're doubled and blockaded at the moment. It's going to be pretty easy here for White, I would think, to win this game. Yeah, so just a win here. I'm not exactly sure what the score is at the moment, but it seems like Holt is holding pretty well here. So another exchange Slav. So these guys are interested, it seems, in fighting their theoretical battles. So a very symmetrical position right now. Now white square bishop's coming off. Let's see if we get bishop d6. No, bishop e7. He wants to hold on to his dark square bishop. And again, this knight to e5 stuff. Chasing the bishop off of e5. Queen coming out to a5. This is again one of those symmetrical pawn structures, sort of dull positions that the exchange Slav is sort of notorious for. Okay, so now trying to get in on the c file. Now rook c8, getting control of the c file looks nice. Yeah, so we got that. And okay, he broke with b5. Now offering the queen trade. He has to be careful here of his back rank. If queen takes, rook takes, rook check, then he has bishop f8. But then bishop to d6. Oh, that could have been a dangerous variation. I'm not sure. Maybe he would have taken with the pawn. Queen takes, pawn takes, to cut out any back rank checks after b takes. So let's see. White has some space on the queen side. Now the queens are coming off, and the rook is coming in to attack this c pawn. This is the nice thing about having a rook on an open file, more flexibility. And I don't think there's any way for him. There's really no way for him to defend this pawn because the rook can't go to a3. Bishop takes rook, so he's just going to have to let the pawn go. But then that would cede control of the c file, so he's not really in any hurry. I guess he figures he can take this pawn whenever. Okay. Now he grabs it. Now he's got to get back on the c file, probably. Yeah, and I guess Norowitz is putting his hope in drawing this same color bishop endgame. I'm not sure if he can do that, but we'll see. I don't know what a computer would say. If this was an opposite color bishop endgame, then it would probably be draw. or very drawish, but with the same color bishops, I'm not exactly sure. Now, trying to trade bishops and get in here and grab this a-pawn. Yeah, that's another problem. The a-pawn is a bit of a target. So Holt is trying to keep bishops on to try to retain some winning chances. If the trade happened, then the king would probably come in here and just munch this a-pawn, and then it looks pretty drawn. So offering the trade again, and then probably try to take the a-pawn. It's hard because there's not really any squares for black's king to penetrate into. So, okay, he's trying to get in on f5 here. Takes king f5, and then these pawns are targets. And actually, this looks like a pretty winning king and pawn in game for black. But actually, he probably just needs to stay put with like f3 or some other move, not to let the king in. Yeah, just move the king, trying not to give the king any squares to get into the position on. But, okay, can the king come in f6 on these dark squares? Ah, okay, he's trying to push these pawns, and if this pawn takes, then this is an outside pass pawn. And White even just decides that this is lost king and pawn endgame, and it probably was. So d4, knight f6, c4, Nimzo invite, and we do see a Nimzo Indian, so something new from the Queen's Gambit. And Holt plays the Queen c2 Nimzo Indian. So I guess Norowitz decided he's been getting worked in his other openings, so he's trying something new. Okay, so White building up the big center. The point of this move, Queen c2, is that if Black takes the knight, Queen takes, holds on, keeps the pawn structure, where in other variations, if the pawn takes now, without the Queen there, he would have had to be playing pawn takes, and that would have messed up his pawn structure. So a nice space advantage for Holt here. But he chips away at it with e6 and then develops at the same time. So now playing this knight into c6 to try to control the e5 square. And now the knight retreats to try to hold up this advanced e5 or c5. Keep this bishop bad. So we've got a position where White has slightly more space and the two bishops versus knight and the bishop. But this bishop on d3 is not doing a whole lot, just staring at these two pawns. So let's see what happens here. So really putting all of his pawns on light squares here and making this bishop not a very effective piece means that Black can have some chances to get into positions with his knight here. Like this knight here is nicely positioned on c5 and is probably at the moment a better piece than this bishop. But you know, like they say, some people believe that the worst bishop is better than the best knight because you can always push pawns forward and try to free the bishop, and then it'll become a stronger piece. So I don't really understand this move, rook to b1. Maybe if you want, maybe he wants to answer b4 with a4 with b4. I'm not sure. Oh, okay, he's just preparing the b5 break. But the knight gets sunk in here on b3, and it's not really going to be chased away from her. But actually, yeah, it's going to be hard to get the knight out of there, because if he tries to trade this bishop for the knight, then this pawn on c4 will not be protected by anything any longer. So this bishop has to kind of hang around to protect the c4 pawn, which is attacked by the bishop. Thus can't really maneuver itself to try to give itself up for this knight. So some fight in the position here. Hard to see where Black might get his pawn breaks. He does have this weakness on d6 and this hole on d5, which would be a great square for a knight, but of course there's only the two bishops left. So pushing his pawns on the king side, try to open some lines on this side of the board. And Black is preparing for g5 so that when hg, the rook's on the open file. His position is pretty blocked up. And now, okay, so Black is trying to find a better square for his knight. It's not going to stay on a5. He'll come back to b7 or b3 at some point to try to find a better square. So now the rook, oh, he decides not to take with the h-pawn. Okay. He's pushing on with g6, h5. So these rooks are now hitting this pawn on h5, but it's nicely protected by this bishop. Oh, nice tactic. The pawn is pinned here to this hanging rook after rook to c3. So if pawn takes, then rook takes rook. So picking up a pawn there, a nice tactical spot by Norowitz. And now it's very, very tough for white, I think. Black's rook has really entered into his camp and is winning a pawn here, trying to get some counterplay on the g7 pawn, but the king just comes over to defend. Now sacking a pawn maybe for some kind of counter chances, trying to open some lines here. I don't really understand it. Oh, he's grabbing this pawn on f6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 3, 2 pawns up for black, and this should be pretty winning. This knight is a little bit bad here on a5, but this c pawn is hanging. So in the meantime, not going to grab this pawn here with the knight or the bishop. Takes with the knight just to get the knight into a better position. And now the knight can find a nice square on e5, but now the rook coming into the 7th. I don't think there's any checkmating possibilities unless he can somehow get the bishop looking on the h5 to d8 diagonal, and then the rook coming over for some back rank checks, something like that. But that seems hard to do. Now the bishop cutting off the rook from the 7th rank, so the time situation is pretty even here. This is going to be coming down to a mouse race, as much as I'm trying to talk about the position here. Okay, now black pushing his past a pawn, trying to get that pawn down the board. Blockading. Can he just take that pawn? I don't know why he didn't just take that pawn. Maybe there was a tactic. Okay, now where to go with the bishop? Bishop doesn't have very many squares, because the knight was covering all the light squares, so he had to chop that knight first. And now we're coming down to 5 seconds, so this is just a mouse race. And now white trying to get in some checkmating threats with the king, bishop, and rook as black queens. So this is just a mouse race, and of course now black wins and manages to mate. So that was a crazy finish. It was it was a fun game. So I think we'll stop watching these two here and just see maybe one more Boris Grachev game before this game is over. Before this video is over. This is a 3-minute game that was just won by VDoc, Boris Grachev. So let's see if he plays one more. And if not, then we'll cut the video here. I think we got some good games in with some strong players. So just waiting here to see if he plays one more. Shredded is online. That's FIDE Master Armand Hamilton. You guys remember him probably from his exploits on Chess Cube. He doesn't seem to be playing, so. Alright, I guess we'll cut the video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time.